What's good, everyone? Just had a lot of good feedback from my last videos. One was talking about what promoters want out of athletes in strongman shows, but also what I miss in sport. And I sort of put it out there and asked if anyone had any questions. And one was about motivation. So I'm going to have a bit of a chat about my motivations, what kept me motivated, and I guess what athletes, strongmen can do now, because things are very different now to when I was competing. As most people know, when I started back in the mid 2000s, 2007 in strongman, but I was in weightlifting in 2003, 2004. The sport was a fair bit smaller. I think there's probably only about 20 of us in strongman in the country at the time in 2006, 7. So it was a small sport, so we had to try and find our motivation where we could from the guys overseas. YouTube and Instagram and Facebook weren't massive things, so we weren't necessarily watching what the other guys were doing for motivation. But then as things went along, the motivation started to build up in the sense that people could see what more we're doing by YouTube, by Instagram, by Facebook, by whatever. But in the past, obviously, 2 to 3 years, we've had the global bastard going on. So a lot of people have lost a lot of motivation. I've got this from a lot of athletes and a lot of people I coach. They're not prepping for a comp because they can't travel. They want to do things, but they can't. Promoters aren't really doing much. Everyone's trying to be cautious on what they do. They don't want to overstretch budget. And it's a bit of a funky place we're in at the moment, especially in regards to athletes. Think about Tokyo Olympics, like using weightlifting, for example. All the weightlifters were lifting to media, and that's it, very small crowds. So in saying that, it's very difficult to get motivated. I spoke to a few of the guys at the Olympics, and to them the Olympics is the pinnacle of what they're doing. But still, when you go out on the platform and in the last goodness knows how long, you go out to the platform and you've got thousands of people around you and millions of people watching on television, if not billions watching on television, you're sort of, I guess, a bit put back when you walk out into an empty arena with no hype and no nothing. So a lot of them had to really dig deep and understand that, the goals that they had worked on for the last 4 years were all that mattered. The motivation and the thought to win that gold medal or bronze or silver or whatever you were gunning for, or just to make the top 5 or whatever your motivation is. Some people were there to just hit PRs, some people were just there to be on the platform. That's their motivation. So a lot of guys are struggling through this period of time. So I guess the biggest things my piece of advice is I would like to give to athletes and anyone that's struggling with motivation is trying to think of what's within you and your goals within you and what you can do, because you can't affect what's happening outside of your control. If there's no control in that you can do, there's nothing you can change. So if you can't control something else, try and control what you do. So, if a competition is being run and it gets cancelled, you can't control that. So what do? You do your very best to try and work on what you might have done at that competition. So if it was me, if I was prepping for a comp and then the last minute got cancelled, but I'd done 10 weeks of prep, I would go out and just do all the events myself with some mates of mine or wherever, and just have a hit out and go as hard as I possibly can and still try and get an overall result in what I'm doing. Okay, it's not in front of a crowd of people. Okay, I don't get first, second, third, but I'm still ticking off the box that I wanted to, because the lifts itself are what you had prepped for. So you might as well do them, resettle down again after that, and then prep for your next thing. It's not an easy thing to do, because I think everyone tends to look ahead of that and they always look towards the limelight. I think that's a big thing athletes are struggling with now because of things being so much on social media and so much online. They just turn around and just go, I want to be the center of attention, blah, 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 blah. This is my moment, etc., etc. And everyone deserves their moment in the sun. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's, again, thinking about not putting the cart before the horse. Just trying to focus on what you're training for, and you're training for those lifts. If the comp doesn't come around, do them at home. Get a group of guys together that you train with, training partners. Just have a hit out. Try and keep yourself motivated like that. I guess if you're in the situation where there are no comps or there's nothing to prep for, then it's trying to find goals within yourself. You might have sat there going, you know what, it's been 3 years since I PR'd my deadlift. let's knuckle down and do a good 10-week, 6-week, 12-week cycle just to try and build that deadlift up. Try some things you haven't done before. I'm always massive. One of the biggest things I was told as a young athlete growing up was try it all. Don't just limit yourself. Try it. Like, go do strongman. If you like it, stick with it. Have a crack at a weightlifting comp. Have a crack at a Highland Games. Have a crack at a CrossFit comp. Have a crack at a bodybuilding comp. Like, just do one of them and go, bodybuilding wasn't for me. Hated it. Couldn't do the dieting. Don't do it again. There's experience done. You've ticked off a box. You've learnt something. Then you might go to Highland Games. Oh, I hated that. That was just terrible. Just didn't like it. Didn't suit me. I don't like it. Cool. The learning curve, experiences, performing in front of a crowd, whatever. Take what you can from that. Oh, I like weightlifting. That was really good. Or I hated weightlifting. Or I liked powerlifting. Or, I'll do a deadlift only or a bench only competition. I love bench press. I want to get my bench press better. So let's just do a bench only. Try and manipulate your goals to suit what you can do. Because hopefully in time, things will loosen up. Promoters will start doing more again. There'll be more chance to travel. As we see, things are getting better. It's taking time. But things will get better. They will get better for sure. So in saying that, just try and think about the little things you can improve on, the little things you can work on. Try and keep motivated by just being better at the things that you want to get better at. Again, everyone's going to have those training sessions or training cycles where you also do a training cycle and you don't hit your PRs. And that can be demoralizing in itself. And I totally understand that. It's not an easy thing to try and keep fighting. And I guess one of the real big things is when you've been doing a sport for, most sports for, 3 to 5 year period, that's when things start to get really hard. So it takes a lot of mental strength to try and pull through that type of stuff. I can name only 2 or 3 guys that were even around when I started. Maybe not even that anymore. But even in my whole career period, there's not even that many guys that are still around towards my later period. So the 5-year mark gets really difficult, and that's when you can see if somebody's actually good or not. I've seen so many guys come into a sport with a firecracker up their ass. They're that good. They're so talented. But as soon as things get hard, as soon as that little bit becomes difficult and they don't PR or they get beaten or whatever, then they just shut up shop and leave. Now, if that's what you want to do and that's all you can do, that's fine. It is what it is. But, don't pretend like you're, so hard done by, because everyone goes through that stage in their career. You get to a point, this is good, this is great. To be great, you must push past that period. You must. If you can't, that's fine. Obviously, the sport wasn't necessarily for you, or it wasn't what you really wanted to do, and that's fine. Everyone has their own pathways and has their own goals to go wherever they want to go. And, there's nothing against people trying. But again, when you get to that elite level, there's good and then there's great. And it's very hard to get to that great level because you have to push, and every day is going to get harder and harder. You have your great days, and trust me, those great days are just unbelievable days. But that 5-year period, 3 to 5 years, after you've done the grinding work, and then it's like, oh my God, I have to grind even more. I'm not PRing, I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is rehab work that my physio's given me, or, why am I doing tempo squats every week to just try and get 2.5 kilos on my squat? Well, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And that's why the best guys in the world, they improve by this much every year. It's not, linear. It doesn't just do that every time. So look, I hope this video has given you guys a bit of something to focus on. I know it's one of those tough things where it's like everyone sort of struggles at periods through their careers. But I guess the biggest thing to take out of this is, be positive. Be positive in your mind. Understand that shit times are coming and they will hang around. But when you have those good moments, hold on to them. Video them. Look back on them. Be motivated by that. Be motivated by others. try and, if a competition gets cancelled or something fails around you, still go ahead and do it, but do it at home, do it with your mates. If you're stuck somewhere and you can't, zoom in with someone and just go, man, I'm going to have a hit out. I can't make it to your place. Let's zoom a video hit out and we'll just train together. Just little things like that. You've just got to try and think outside the box. And I'm sure there's a million other things you can do. But these are just little nitbits and little things that you can focus on and try to. Get training partners. Having a training partner is the best. When I had a training partner, that was when I was at my absolute best. Good people around me. So yeah, like I said, just try and keep motivated the best way you can. If something goes awry, something goes wrong, try and do whatever you can that's in your control to do what you can do. If it's out of your control, there's nothing you can do about it. But trust me, there is still things you can do. It's like when you get hurt. If I hurt my shoulder, I can still squat. So, like I said, just try and keep motivated. I hope some of these things have helped you. If there's any more questions that you want answered, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message in the comment section below. Private message me, whatever. Happy to have a chat about whatever you feel like maybe you're struggling with, or some questions about what I struggled with through my career. But I hope this has helped out. I hope you all have a lovely day wherever you are in the world. Stay well, stay healthy, stay strong. I will see you all very soon. See you later.